So here's something impressive about Oryx. He grew a dick. Man, this is some fascinating shit when you think about it. We have an alien race all pissed off at humans, and their god, or at least the motherfucker in charge right now, calls himself a king, but he was born a woman and managed to somehow grow a dick. I mean, he could have just borrowed Bruce Jenner's old junk if he needed something, right? Or even the YouTube waters allowing him to keep fucking himself more often. Now let me just get this out of the way right now. This is not a video about being transgender, so I don't want people getting themselves all sensitive and politically correct. Personally, I don't care what someone wants to identify themselves. I really don't. Man, woman, alien, I don't give a fuck. Your personal life is exactly that. And you can do whatever the fuck you want as long as it's legal. I don't care about the pipes and the plumbing you have. I don't care what you identify as. It's your right to be whatever the fuck you want to be. This is also not going to be a video on how groundbreaking this decision really is. A transgender character in a game. A first for video games to show a main bad guy as a transgender. Video games are becoming more liberal and open to current events and lifestyle. Get the fuck out of here with this shit. I really don't think people give a flying fuck about that, as long as the shit makes sense in the context of the story. Whether you have a straight character or a gay character, whether it's transgender, people honestly just don't give a fuck, as long as it's part of the story and not just something that's tacked on. As long as it's not something added to the game just to make it seem like you're open to include all walks of life for the sake of doing it. I don't give a shit about that. What I do care about is why the fuck was none of this in the story in the first place? Fucking A, man. This is the biggest complaint Destiny goes through, and it's been the problem since day one. The writers of the game created a lore, a pretty good background, but at no point does any of this shit make it into the actual game. Instead, the only place you can get this information is on their website in the form of a fucking trading card that you need to unlock in the game itself. This is a known problem. This has been a known problem, and it's one of the best features of Destiny is the lore that the game has built upon, except the biggest problem is that we never get to see any of the shit that we're actually playing. It's absurd and it's pointless. For those of you who don't know the story, because you just didn't give two fucks to go to the website to find out about it, here's a quick rundown of the motherfucker. I'm not going to get into the full details, but I'm going to give you guys a brief history on how he came about. Oryx was originally born a female called Orish. How original, right? He was one of 3 daughters to the Osmium King. Through some bullshit, the Osmium King was overthrown by another king, but the 3 daughters escaped and wanted their revenge. Apparently, the Hive always seemed to want revenge for someone getting fucked up. That's all that drives them in this bitch. Anyway, they managed to get in contact with gods called the Worms. Now, if you play the game, you'll recognize some of these names on part of your gear or chests around the map. Some of their names were Zol, Eir, Yule, and Akka. Those were the names of them, and you guys know where those chests are around the fucking Dreadnought. Anyway, the 3 sisters made deals with the Worms in that the Worms would give them power, and in return, the sisters would have to spread the larva of the worm to create an army in their likeness. Thus, the Hive were created. The 3 sisters were all transformed, one turning into a mother, one turning into a knight, one turning into a king, or whatever the fuck it is. Orish was then turned into a male and then was renamed Oryx with an AU, not the OR in front of Oryx, but spelled AURYX. Then they went back to the dude that fucked up their dad, the king that whooped his ass. They now went back and whooped that motherfucker's ass, sent him into exile, and unleashed the Hive on the universe. And since the deal with the Worms required them to continue to spread, the 3 sisters continue to conquer all these worlds and shit. Now, at some point, the dude's ass that they beat up met up with some other people that wanted to at least negotiate with Oryx. Since the Worms didn't like that, they wanted this guy exterminated, they wanted to kill everything in their path. They didn't want to negotiate, and they just wanted to consume. And they had one of the other sisters come and kill Oryx as a punishment. Since these motherfuckers are pretty much invincible, Oryx returned back to life, all pissed off, and decided to just kill everything, including his 2 other sisters. So the 3 transformed sisters fought repeatedly over history, died repeatedly over history, came back to life throughout history, and would kill off entire populations just to please the Worms. Eventually, Oryx decided to kill one of the Worms, Akka, in order to obtain his power that is known as the Taken. So now, he calls himself the Taken King, and he changed his name from Oryx, AURYX, to Oryx, ORYX. Don't ask me why, that's just how the fucking story mentions it. But after killing one of those worm gods, that's when he decided to change his name. But he's still driven by the consumption of the worms, which is why this motherfucker keeps taking over worlds, which is why he keeps killing everything in his past. Thus, you get the background of Oryx. This sounds cool, right? This sounds like some Mass Effect 3 type shit, right? Yet none of that is in the fucking game. Here's Here's what we know about Oryx in the game. He's Crota's dad, and he's pissed off. Sounds legit, right? I mean, you created this fascinating background for the character, and then ignore it completely. That's like making a gorgeous sandwich with every ingredient sourced from the best possible locations, only to ignore that shit and eat some bologna and fucking cheese. And not even good cheese. We're talking like Kraft Singles cheese. And you know what's funny, man? Some of the inconsistencies we saw with Oryx are explained by this background. For example, why does a motherfucker not have the head of a knight? Think about it. Every other knight has the exact same head when it comes to the hive. They may have a horn or two different or whatever the fuck it is, but everyone has the same fucking head. His head spins out like a goddamn airplane wing. Why does it do that? It looks more in line with a wizard. So it kind of makes sense that Oryx started as a wizard and then was converted into a king, because now he has the look of a wizard, but he's still the king. Another thing, why is he able to fly? No knight is able to fly. The only character of the hive that are able to fly are wizards. And yes, he grew some giant fucking wings to allow him to fly, but no other hive member is able to fly. No other hive member is able to just float even without the wings. He's able to do so. Why? Because he initially was a wizard, which was female. So a lot of the inconsistencies that we saw with Oryx, and I know that he was cool and he was God, so people just kind of let that shit go like, oh, okay, he's the God, he's in charge, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. But we have a source. We have a reason as to why those inconsistencies of being a knight are actually explained. He was a wizard, and then grew a dick and converted into whatever the fuck he is right now. Now, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to video games, you don't just want these things thrown into games. You don't just want a gay character tacked on into a game like Mass Effect tends to do. Oh, here's a gay character just because we want to put a gay character in there. Oh, here's a transgender character just because we want to throw it in there. This one actually makes sense. This one actually has purpose. This is something that could have been in the game. This is something that we could have added to the game to add more lore. On top of that, now that we've killed Oryx, now that we've killed the king of the Taken, or the king of the hive, whatever you want to call this motherfucker, we have no storyline that could lead down the road to another eventual hive boss. Yes, Oryx could always return from the dead because he has in the past, whatever the fuck, but we now know through the lore in the background on a fucking website that there are still two sisters around. There are still two major gods out there that could come back and try and revenge their brother's death. But does Bungie tell us this? No, they don't. They keep it locked on a website. So even though we killed this motherfucker, even though we got foreshadowed that the Cabal might be sending a much larger force to come down and kick Guardian's ass or whatever the fuck it is, we don't know what's going to be coming up next for the Hive. However, we have these two mysterious characters that certainly could appeal to future stories. Again, we never get any of that. And this has always been the problem with Destiny. Bungie Vision has a lot of problems with Destiny. We know that. They have repeat areas, they have monotonous storylines, they have very little gameplay variety, they have very little customization in the game, they have fucking grind mentality, we have to do shit over and over and over again, but the biggest complaint that everyone has had has been the lack of a story. No story whatsoever. No coherent story that explains anything in this game. We finally got some of that with the Taken King. We finally got a reason as to why some enemy wants to come down and fuck with us, but again, we've never seen anything about the Traveler. But all this fantastic lore and background still sits locked away on a website. To me, this is the most ridiculous process that Bungie Vision has come up with. You have all this story, you have fantastic lore, yet none of it makes its way into the game. I mean, we don't even know this shit in the game. We don't have to scan something. We don't go to codex or anything. At least Mass Effect 3 had that codex where you can go and check all the history or some shit like that. So if Bungie Vision plans on getting their act together for Destiny 2, whatever the fuck it is, the main thing they have to do, even if you can't get the background into the storylines themselves when you're actually playing the game, have something in the game. Have a dictionary, have a thesaurus, have a codex, have something where people can at least go to a kiosk and read up on the story about your background. Without it, this game's always going to seem like an empty shell when it comes to story and narrative. It does not have enough to sustain itself. And this is the biggest problem with Destiny has, and Oryx is a perfect fucking example. If you really want to fix something in the next game on top of all the other shit that's wrong with this fucking game, you have to add this shit to the fucking game. There's no question about it. Anyways, that does it for this video. So as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit. And I'll see you guys in the next video.